What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back. This series has been doing very well, so we're going to keep slamming through it. This is 10 very sweet and unique Zelda Breath of the Wild, not Tears of the Kingdom, Breath of the Wild. Do Tears of the Kingdom later. Who else will we start with without Link, Hero of Hyrule? For white, red, green, you get a 3/3 legendary creature, Hylian warrior. Magnesis. Whenever you sacrifice an equipment, return another equipment at random from your graveyard to the battlefield. Weapon durability. When Link attacks, if he is equipped, flip a coin. If you win the flip, double Link's power until the end of turn. Then, target equipment attached to Link gains, at the end of combat, sacrifice this permanent. Makes sense, right? Magnesis, he's pulling up new items, and never know what you're going to get in that chest, you know? And his weapon durability does crit when it is about to break, and you really can't tell when it's about to break until it starts flickering. It's a great way to showcase the unique mechanics of Breath of the Wild, while also having a very cool Voltron commander that recurs equipments to the battlefield. Do some kind of looting things to get value. There's a lot you can do here. Next up, the big bad himself, Ganon the Great Calamity. For 3 black, you get a 6/6 legendary creature avatar with Blood Moon. At the beginning of each upkeep, put a time counter on Ganon. Then, if there are 8 or more counters, remove them all and return all creatures exiled with gloom counters on them to the battlefield under your control. Whenever a creature you don't own dies, exile it instead with a gloom counter. So whenever something dies, it gets exiled with a gloom counter, even if you control it, as long as you don't own it. So as long as Ganon stays, whatever you take will inevitably die and go away with counters, and then after 8 total turns, he'll bring them all back. And this can keep going on and on and on. In fact, since they are exiled with counters, even if you remove Ganon, yes, he will have to start over with his 8, but he can grab the old things as well. The only things to get them out of this loop is to kill Ganon, then kill the creatures you stole. Zelda Stalwart Princess. For 2 and a white, you get a 1/4 legendary creature, Hylian Wizard. Try Force of Wisdom. Whenever an opponent casts a spell from anywhere other than their hand, you draw a card. Light Arrow. 2 and a white, exile another target creature. Its controller may cast it from exile as long as it remains in exile. This ability can't be activated until your next upkeep. Sort of like a worse once each turn kind of thing, because you have to reload on your upkeep. But before then you can't activate it again. The light arrow part. But being able to instant speed remove creatures, well, they can play them later, but you do draw a card off of them, because they're playing them from exile. White has needed a commander that does this kind of payoff for playing from exile for a long time, and they still don't really have one. This is a very cool mono-white card draw commander. There's a cycle of 4 Guardians. We're going to kick it off with Orbosa, Guardian of Lightning. For 3 white-red, you get a 3/3 legendary creature, Gerudo Warrior, with Flash, First Strike, Vigilance, and Trample. It has Urbosa's Fury. When Orbosa enters a battlefield, if it was cast, deal 3 damage to each other creature and each opponent. So it surprises people as sort of like a combat trick. It does have First Strike, so even if you have a whopping 6 toughness, this can be flashed in, deal 3 to that and all your shit, and then I can just block it to my First Striker and take it out. It's very cool, but you can't really blink it too much because it does say if it was cast. So blinking it doesn't really do anything. But First Strike, Vigilance, Trample is just a pretty solid thing on its own. And this as a commander would be very fun to play. Next up we have Mipha, Guardian of Life. For 3 white-blue, you get a 2/4 legendary creature Zora Cleric with Flash and Lifelink. It has Mipha's Grace. When Mipha enters the battlefield, if it was cast, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield that was put there from the battlefield this turn, then gain 3 life. Whenever you gain life, you may pay 2 if you do draw a card. This is good symbology of Mipha's Grace in the game, which is whenever your character dies, it gets automatically resurrected with some hearts, i.e. some life. And then, of course, what is a blue commander without card draw? So, that's something. Next up we have Daruk, Guardian of Safety. For 3 green-red, you get a 3/6 Flash Trample with Daruk's Protection. When Daruk enters the battlefield, if it was cast, target creature gains indestructible as long as you control Daruk. If a source an opponent control would deal damage to you or a permanent you control, prevent 1 of that damage. Naturally, Daruk would be the biggest and the chunkiest, as he is a Goron, and they are thick rock people that eat rocks. Pretty cool lore there. Anyway, as you've noticed, all of the Guardians have Flash and if they were cast effects, because in the game, Link calls upon their powers, surprisingly, when he needs them. Especially Daruk, because this one will happen by accident a lot, but it's still a very cool card. You can flash it in to protect your piece, and of course, as a 3/6, it blocks very well. Ravali, Guardian of Winds. For 3 white-black, you get a 4/3 Bird Archer with Flash, Flying, and Ravali's Gale. When Ravali enters the battlefield, if it was cast, other creatures you control gain Flying until the end of turn. Whenever a creature attacks an opponent, you may give that creature Flying until the end of turn. Hero with Black Identity, because he is a selfish, vain, poopy head. Anyway, aside from him being a jerking character, which is awesome by the way, he does have the ability to sort of help your opponents kill your other opponents, because he can give other people's creatures flying that are attacking your opponents. So if a person is a problem, then you can convince the other teammates, or other players rather, to attack that problem child, and you can give all their stuff flying. Very cool commander. It even gives your stuff flying too, not just when it enters, but when your stuff attacks. It is 5 mana, but you can also do it as a surprise trick when you go to attack, and then before blockers you can flash this in and give your whole team flying, and they're donezo sometimes. Everyone's favorite bard, cast the Wandering Minstrel. For white, blue, green, you get a 0/4 Bird Bard. Bird Bard. With Flying. Cass's Song. When Cass enters the battlefield and at the beginning of your upkeep, exile the top 2 cards of your library face down with song counters on them. Then each opponent draws a card. When Cass leaves the battlefield, put all cards exiled with song counters on them into your hand and gain that much life. So basically, he is letting your opponents get immediate value. You get more value, but you gotta wait a little bit for it. So if you go 3 full turns, right? You've given each of your opponents 3 cards, and you have 6 cards stockpiled. If they remove Cass, or you blink Cass, or he gets bounced, or whatever, you take all those cards into your hand and gain a decent chunk of life. This is a nice take on Hugs, sort of, because like all Hugs decks, it should hug your opponents, but it should hug you harder. Now this one's very unique. Sidon, Prince of the Zora. For 2 blue-blue, you get a 2/3 legendary creature, Zora Noble. At the beginning of your upkeep and end step, draw a card. This ability only triggers if you control 2 commanders. And as partner, choose a background or friends forever. You may only have 1 additional commander. So what this is stating is that you can have Sidon as a commander, and you can have a background as a commander, or you can have Sidon and a partner, or you can have Sidon and a Friends Forever commander from the Stranger Things cycle. Or you can just play him in a partner's deck. He doesn't need to be the commander to get the value. He can just, as long as you have 2 commanders, you drop him down, you're drawing 2 extra cards a turn. 1 on your end step immediately, and then 1 on your upkeep in the next turn, and the end step of the following turn. It's 2 cards every single turn, though they are in very inopportune phases to get extra cards. Still, very cool and very unique. The only commander that actually cares about you having 2 commanders. I have saved the goofiest for last. We have Beetle, Tenacious Merchant. For a hybrid Izzet and a green, you get a 1/1 human peasant. Equipped creatures can't attack you. Pay 2 and a blue, target opponent gains control of an equipment you control, create X treasures, where X is that permanent's mana value, and draw a card. At the beginning of combat on each opponent's turn, you may attach target equipment that player controls to a creature that player controls. So basically, you give away equipment that you play with your own manas, and you attach it to your opponent's stuff to make them bigger. This does not mean that they can hurt you at all, because equipped creatures cannot attack you at all. But they can attack your planeswalkers, so be careful when you run those. You know, if he was real, which he isn't. But being 2 mana, this is a great, weird, janky Hugs engine, and I would just, I would love to see it. Thank you again for joining us for another wacky custom card segment. I hope you like these. Let me know which one is your favorite, if you would build any of these, if they were real. And if you think any of the cards are too weak, too strong, how you would build them, any wacky combos you can think of. I would love to hear from you in the comments below. And you, have a nice day.